Ever wondered why Amish women seem peaceful, quiet, devoted? But behind the calm lies something else. No choice in marriage, no voice in decisions. A life shaped by silence where obedience isn't optional, it's expected. Born into obedience. Amish women are often perceived as peaceful, quiet, and devoted, but beneath this calm facade is a darker reality. From birth, their paths are predetermined. Raised in strict obedience, Amish girls grow up in a world where silence isn't just encouraged, it's demanded. Their lives are tightly controlled, from the clothes they wear to the roles they fulfill. Every decision, every movement is dictated by the men in their lives: father, brother, husband. Personal freedom, it doesn't exist. From early childhood, they're trained to obey and to never question. Their futures are already planned: marriage, motherhood, submission. The silence begins with their first breath and stretches through their entire lives. Education. The suppression of choice starts in childhood. Amish girls are raised to believe silence is golden and obedience a virtue. But the real harm begins when education is taken away. At just 14 years old, Amish girls are pulled from school, often after completing only 8th grade. This educational cutoff traps them in a world where their role is not to learn, grow, or explore, but to serve. Their futures are already determined: marriage, motherhood, and submission. Without the tools to understand the outside world, their lives are confined to what the community dictates. They are not allowed to seek independence. Their education is an afterthought, leaving them unprepared for any future that doesn't involve obeying men. Marriage decisions. By the time Amish girls reach their teenage years, the most important decision of their lives is already made for them: marriage. Love and personal choice are absent in this tradition. Marriage isn't about compatibility or affection. It's about meeting family expectations and following community traditions. Often, these marriages are arranged quietly before a woman can even grasp the full weight of the decision. Her feelings? Irrelevant. The man chosen for her? Final. The concept of courtship doesn't exist. Women are expected to accept a partner chosen for them, silencing their desires in favor of tradition. Choosing a life partner is not a right. It's a predetermined role, stripping away a woman's agency and reducing her to a tool in the community's grand design. Her voice is absent, her autonomy denied. Consent in marriage. Once married, Amish women face an even darker reality: lack of consent in marriage. Women are expected to submit to their husband's physical and emotional demands without question. Their needs and desires are secondary to their husbands. The idea of saying no in marriage is foreign. Submission is not a choice. It is a divine expectation. Resisting any part of this submission is considered rebellion, not just against the husband, but against God. From a young age, girls are taught their role is to serve and obey, with their identity shaped by the demands of marriage. They are not asked, they are expected to comply with their husband's will, effectively losing their personal autonomy in the process. Legal protection. And if something goes wrong, there's nowhere to turn. Amish women live in a world where legal protection doesn't exist. When abuse or violence happens, it's not reported to the police or brought before a court. Instead, it's handled within the church, often swept under the rug. The Amish value their close-knit community and will do whatever it takes to protect the family name, sometimes at the expense of the women's safety and well-being. There are no lawyers, no shelters, no support services to help them. Abuse is often covered up by church leaders, and any attempt to seek help from the outside world is met with harsh condemnation. Women are taught to be silent, to endure, to stay within their roles. The idea of turning to authorities or even friends for support is not just foreign, it's forbidden. This leaves them trapped in their homes, isolated and voiceless. Their world is one of submission, with no escape or protection in sight. Zero privacy. Even after saying, "I do," her life is watched and controlled. Amish women are never truly alone. Every moment of their day is under constant surveillance, not just by their husbands, but by the entire community. What they wear, say, and do is scrutinized by family, church, and neighbors. There's no such thing as personal space or privacy. Even within the confines of their own home, their actions are monitored, their choices questioned, and their freedoms restricted. The family dictates what she can wear, how she must speak, and who she can interact with. The church enforces strict teachings, expecting total obedience, with little to no room for individual thought. Neighbors who live in close proximity are always on the lookout, ready to report any perceived misstep. This unrelenting oversight leaves Amish women with no space to make personal choices or develop independent identities. The idea of privacy is entirely foreign to them. From the moment they wake up, their every action is watched. This constant scrutiny ensures conformity, maintaining control over their behavior and keeping them tethered to the community's rigid expectations. Without personal space or the freedom to choose, Amish women exist in a world where their actions are constantly dictated by the collective. Medical freedom. The surveillance doesn't stop at personal actions, it extends to their bodies. In the Amish community, the concept of medical autonomy is virtually non-existent. Women's health and well-being are rarely prioritized outside of their roles within the family. Their medical decisions are made by their husbands or other male family members who hold complete control over what is considered necessary care. Even in dire situations, medical treatment can be influenced more by the family's religious convictions than by a doctor's recommendation. Women are taught to endure illness or discomfort in silence, often relying on prayer or herbal remedies instead of seeking proper medical attention. This lack of medical freedom reinforces their dependence on men, leaving them vulnerable and without a voice in their own healthcare. Silent suffering. And so, most stay silent not because they agree, but because they're trapped. Amish women live a lifetime of quiet suffering, enduring emotional tolls from youth into old age. Every stage of their life is shaped by the constant threat of punishment or exile. From a young age, their voices are stifled, their desires ignored, and their futures controlled. As they grow, this silence deepens. They're taught to accept their fate with resignation, never challenging the rigid roles that have been defined for them. To speak out or resist would mean severing ties with the very community they depend on for survival. In adulthood, their lives are governed by rules that strip them of autonomy. Decisions about their body, their relationships, and their future are made by others, often with little regard for their well-being. And as they age, this silence becomes a way of life. Even as their own needs or suffering become apparent, they bear it quietly for fear of the consequences of speaking up. Their emotional pain, often compounded by years of oppression, remains hidden, too dangerous to acknowledge. The cost of defiance is too great, so they endure, trapped in a cycle of suffering, isolation, and submission. Mental health. Because in their world, sadness isn't a condition, it's a weakness. Mental health doesn't exist in Amish communities, at least not in any recognized form. Depression, anxiety, trauma, they're not seen as medical issues, but as signs of spiritual failure. If an Amish woman is struggling with her emotions, she's not encouraged to seek therapy or support. Instead, her suffering is often blamed on a lack of faith or devotion. Church leaders may advise prayer, penance, or increased religious practices, but mental health treatment is non-existent. There's no understanding of mental illness, no resources to help those who are struggling. Instead, those who are vulnerable are often shamed or ignored. The idea of seeking professional help, whether it's a therapist or a counselor, is not just unheard of, it's forbidden. In a community where emotional distress is seen as a personal failing, the concept of mental health is entirely absent. Amish women who experience trauma or emotional pain are left to endure in silence, with no outlet or support. Banishment. And if a woman dares to speak out, the consequences are severe. In the Amish community, questioning the rules is not just frowned upon, it is a direct path to isolation. Women who voice their concerns, question authority, or resist the societal pressures placed on them risk being shunned, one of the most severe forms of punishment in the community. Shunning. Shunning involves a complete severing of ties with family, friends, and the entire community, a punishment so harsh that it often feels like a life sentence. To be shunned is to lose everything: the love of one's family, the comfort of familiar faces, and the sense of belonging that is at the heart of Amish life. For many, the idea of being ostracized from the only world they've ever known is more unbearable than any physical punishment. They are forced to live in a society that doesn't acknowledge their existence, with no one to turn to for support or comfort. The Amish culture is built on the importance of community, and to be excommunicated is not just an expulsion, it's a death sentence to one's emotional and social identity. The concept of shunning enforces conformity, making silence and obedience paramount. Women are taught that even the slightest act of defiance can lead to their complete social and emotional destruction. In the Amish world, disobedience doesn't just bring punishment, it brings a permanent, painful severing of the connections that define their entire existence, a life of service. For Amish women, life is measured by how well they serve others, especially the men in their lives. From a young age, they are taught that their personal worth comes not from their ambitions or dreams, but from how well they contribute to the needs of their families and the community. This begins with the endless chores and responsibilities they shoulder as children, growing into the expectation of full submission once they marry. There's no room for self-fulfillment. The concept of pursuing personal dreams or even hobbies is foreign. Their lives are consumed by tasks, caring for children, maintaining the home, and ensuring the farm or business runs smoothly. They are conditioned to believe their own needs and desires are secondary. This cycle of self-sacrifice keeps Amish women trapped in a life of servitude. The very act of living for others, while noble in many ways, becomes a form of oppression when it leaves no space for the individual to grow, choose, or express her own will. The Amish system has embedded this as the highest form of virtue a woman's life, defined by how much she gives up for others, with no recognition or opportunity for her to have a life of her own. And when you think about the freedoms you take for granted, education, bodily autonomy, the right to speak your mind, remember, these are the rights Amish women never had. For them, life unfolds within the confines of a world that limits their choices from birth to death. The simple privilege of deciding who they marry, what they wear, or how they live, these are dreams they may never experience. While the rest of society advances in the pursuit of equal rights, Amish women remain trapped in a system that offers them no such liberties. No right to an education beyond 8th grade, no ability to make decisions about their bodies, no space for personal expression, no voice in the community's choices. Each step they take is shadowed by someone else's control. Their world is one of silent obedience, where freedom is an illusion and suffering is endured quietly in the hope of acceptance. The stark contrast between their lives and the rights most of us take for granted should leave us reflecting on the true meaning of freedom. How much of our freedom do we really value if it's not extended to those who need it most? For Amish women, freedom is a distant hope that may never be realized.